The gentleman from Tennessee, Mr. Ogles, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In our first hearing, the House Financial Services Committee is highlighting the existential threat of China. In that vein, I'd like to thank the chairman and his leadership and my colleagues for their invaluable contributions, offering no less than 17 bills aimed at deterring CCP aggression. I'd also like to offer some observations and recommendations of my own. Currently, we are allowing the genocidal Chinese Communist Party access to trillions of dollars through our capital markets. Echoing Chair Luetkemeyer, we're directly subsidizing the CCP's military modernization and enabling its horrific human rights abuses. While we spend nearly $1 trillion on our own defense, we diminish that very investment as China uses revenues from our capital markets to flout the rule of law in the South China Sea. Case in point, the CCP was able to develop a brand new warship, the Fujian, because Beijing raised more than $8.6 billion back through 2015. So, Mr. Williams, looking at your written testimony and perhaps sanctions towards the CMIC, the Chinese Military Industrial Complex, what might you envision that we do as a Congress to prevent the United States from essentially building carriers and battleships that are being used against our allies?
So I think there are two things I would look at here. And the first is what you alluded to, which is the CMIC, making sure we are plugging all applicable gaps and we're covering all types of financing that can go to those military companies. So that's number one. The second one is on export controls. And export controls can be a tool to prevent our technology from going to China that can be used to support that exact same military development. Now, I think as I alluded to in my testimony, the way in which you do export controls, however, is critical. It can't just be the U.S. alone. It needs to be coordinated. Otherwise, other countries can step in and supply the same technology. So I would use both CMIC and export controls, but both of those tools need to be carefully coordinated with others.
Yes, sir. As a follow-up to the committee, as an economist, I look at the current state of China, and I see some economic vulnerabilities. And I think there's evidence to document that much of their economic data is actually fabricated. So as we look as a Congress, how do we go on offense and, quite frankly, take advantage of their economic weakness and assert America's dominance in the global marketplace?
So I think one thing that we could do more of and be better at is identifying vacuums before they manifest themselves. So in the case of Russia, I doubt Russia is going to be the same state sponsor of whatever around the globe that it has been. That's creating a vacuum. Venezuela is a good example. As we've seen, China's moved in. Well, the economic weaknesses you point out are limitations on China's ability to do that, and it's even more acute if the U.S. is there to meet them at that challenge. So I think anticipating where those gaps are going to be is wise policy for the U.S.
Fedo, anyone else?
The other comment I would make on that, it's a great question, is if that's the objective, then taking away the easy wins for them makes a lot of sense, right? So to your conversation earlier with Mr. Williams, if you're in a situation where they are able to secure financing for a wide range of civil military activities, taking away that avenue means that if they want to continue to maintain that pace of development and that pace of deployment, means that they'll have to find that money and those assets somewhere else, which makes it costlier and riskier for them to do so. So I think it's a twofold approach. It's identifying the vulnerabilities and then also plugging what we think of are the easy ways that they're able to access U.S. financial markets.
Well, look, I would just add that I completely agree with where you started with this, which is to say that their economy is probably not growing as fast as they want us to all think it is. They're more vulnerable, and there is a lot of division even within the Chinese Communist Party. Xi Jinping is not as secure in his position as many of us often think and has his own vulnerabilities at home. And so I just think through our intel community, through the way we do business, we need to recognize where those vulnerabilities are and exploit them. Because, again, China is not a monolithic state. They are more unstable than we actually realize. And I think trying to figure out where that instability is and putting a finger on it is good for the United States.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to thank the panel for being here. This has been a long day. You all are amazing and very much appreciated. Mr. Chairman, I yield my time.
Gentleman's time has